You ever walked into a room and felt the air change? Like something heavy pressed against your chest, though no one said a word? That's what it feels like to be around toxic people. Their energy drains yours. Their words sting like cold steel. And their silence, even louder than their screams. You feel it, don't you? That pull, the need to defend yourself, to explain, to react. But here's the truth. Every time you give your emotions to a toxic soul, you hand them power over your peace. Staying emotionless isn't about being cold. It's about being in control. It's about building a wall, not to shut the world out, but to protect your light from the storm. Because you can't keep letting people who haven't healed themselves wound you with their poison. You can't keep bleeding for people who wouldn't bandage your pain if the roles were reversed. So today we learn how to stay grounded when chaos surrounds us, how to be still when provoked, how to be fireproof in a world full of smoke. This isn't about being indifferent, it's about being powerful. Let's talk about how you stay emotionless, not empty, around people who were never meant to carry your heart. Silence is not the absence of words, it's the presence of discipline. It's the sound of someone who has mastered their emotions instead of being mastered by them. When you're around toxic people, they will do everything they can to get a reaction out of you. They'll poke at your insecurities, twist your words, and test your boundaries just to see if they can pull you into their storm. But your silence, your calm, your refusal to play their game, that's your armor. It shows them you're not a toy to be played with. It tells them you have standards, that your peace is too valuable to be handed over just because someone else decided to throw a tantrum. Silence isn't about running away. It's about standing your ground without saying a word. You become untouchable not because you fight harder, but because you choose not to be pulled into the fight at all. Let them rage. Let them try to stir the pot. But you stay still. You stay centered. And in that stillness, you find your power. Because when your silence speaks louder than their noise, they'll realize they never had control to begin with. You did. Toxic people crave attention. They thrive off the chaos they create. And when you respond emotionally, you feed that chaos. It's like throwing wood on a fire and wondering why the flames get bigger. But when you respond with silence, when you don't flinch, when you don't explain, when you don't defend, you cut off their fuel, you take away their power. Suddenly, they're left alone with the mess they made. And they don't know what to do with it. They expected you to break down, to argue, to cry, to scream. But you didn't. You chose peace. You chose strength. And nothing frustrates a toxic person more than realizing they can't shake you. That's why silence is so powerful. It shows you're not emotionally available for their drama. It shows you've risen above the level where their tactics work. They can talk about you, lie about you, provoke you, but if you remain calm, they lose. Because real strength isn't loud. It's steady. It's quiet. That silence will shake them more than any angry outburst ever could. You see, the moment you engage, the moment you defend your worth to someone who's already decided to misunderstand you, you've already lost. Not because you're weak, but because you've entered a space where your peace no longer belongs. Silence in that moment becomes your boundary. It's not passive, it's active restraint. It's saying, I don't owe you my energy, because you don't. You don't owe explanations to people who are committed to seeing you in the worst light. You don't owe closure to people who only come around to reopen your wounds. Your silence is a declaration. I've seen this game before, and I refuse to play it again. It's a quiet walk away from the noise, the bait, the guilt tripping, and manipulation. And while they try to figure out why you're not reacting, you're busy healing. You're busy growing. You're busy living a life that doesn't require the approval of people who never clapped when you were winning. Let them wonder. Let them question. But you stay silent. You stay grounded. Because that's how you win. With grace, not with war. When you're silent, you give yourself space to think, space to process, space to protect your mental clarity. Toxic environments are designed to make you feel like you're always walking on eggshells. Like your every word might be twisted and used against you. But when you choose not to speak, when you choose to pause and hold your peace, you strip that power away from them. They can't twist words that were never said. They can't manipulate silence. And in that space, you reclaim control over yourself. You begin to realize that you are not obligated to match the energy of every room you walk into. You can be calm in chaos. You can be light in darkness. You can be water to fire. That's the level of control silence gives you. It separates you from the drama, the confusion, the emotional roller coasters. It builds a shield around your soul that toxic people can't penetrate. And as time goes on, you'll see something beautiful happen. The less you react, the less they show up. Because you're no longer a target. They can't reach you. Your silence has become a language only the strong understand. The world teaches us to respond, to defend, to always have the last word. But what if the last word is no word at all? What if the most powerful thing you can do is not to fight back, but to rise above? Toxic people want your energy, not your silence. They feed off your reactions because it gives them validation. But when you stop giving them access to your emotions, you take back your power. It's not about being cold, it's about being wise. You start to understand that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment deserves a reply, and not every person is worth your attention. That's what silence teaches you. It sharpens your discernment. It helps you see through the noise and focus on what really matters. And what matters is your peace, your growth, your purpose. Let them misinterpret your silence. That's their burden to carry. You don't have to prove anything to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to defend yourself to people who never had your back to begin with. Your silence is your answer. And sometimes that's all that needs to be said. It's hard to stay silent when your character is being attacked. It's hard to stay calm when someone's pushing every button you've got. But silence doesn't mean you're okay with what's happening. It means you've decided that the price of peace is worth more than the price of being right. You've chosen not to step into the pit they've dug for you. Because here's the thing. You don't fight poison with more poison. You fight it by walking away, by letting your life, your actions, your peace speak louder than any accusation. Toxic people don't want truth. They want reaction. But when you give them nothing, you give them a mirror. They're forced to look at themselves and face the emptiness that was once covered by your emotional responses. Let them sit with that. Let them wrestle with the silence they tried to escape. And while they're doing that, you keep walking, you keep healing, you keep growing. Because silence doesn't mean you've given up. It means you've leveled up. And at this level, not everyone deserves access to your words, your energy, or your heart. One of the greatest strengths you will ever develop in life is the ability to stay quiet when everything inside you wants to scream. That's the kind of strength that turns storms into stepping stones. It's not weakness, it's restraint, it's maturity, it's wisdom. Because real growth shows when you stop explaining yourself to people who have no interest in understanding you. You no longer argue with lies. You no longer chase closure from those who cause the damage. Your silence becomes your healing space. It becomes your statement, and it becomes your boundary. People will wonder how you're so calm. They'll wonder how you're still standing. They won't know the storms you fought in silence. They won't see the tears you wiped behind closed doors, but they'll feel the strength in your silence. They'll feel the power in your peace. And deep down, they'll know you've become untouchable. Not because life didn't hurt you, but because you learned how to protect your soul from people who never deserved to touch it in the first place. So stay quiet. Stay still. Let the world talk. Let toxic people try. Your silence will always say more than their noise ever could. People confuse emotional detachment with being heartless, like you suddenly became cold or indifferent. But they have no idea what it took for you to get here. They don't see the nights you cried yourself to sleep. They don't hear the battles you had with yourself, trying not to lose your soul in the chaos other people created. You didn't wake up and decide to stop feeling. You were pushed to that place. Because when you've been hurt enough, lied to enough, drained enough, you start to understand that reacting to every word, every action, every disappointment only steals your peace. So you start to pull back, not out of bitterness, but out of survival. You start choosing where your energy goes. You stop explaining yourself to people who never really listened in the first place. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's not numbness, that's wisdom. Because truthfully, you still feel everything. You still love deeply, you still care silently, but now you've learned to protect your heart with silence. You've learned to shield your soul with space. You've learned that your emotions don't belong in the hands of people who keep dropping them. Emotional detachment is not a lack of emotion. It's the ultimate form of emotional control. You still notice every word, every shift in tone, every sideways glance, but you no longer let it control your spirit. You've been burned too many times by people who took your sensitivity for weakness. They pulled you into their storm, then blamed you for the thunder. And after a while, you get tired of the storm. You get tired of defending your heart to people who only showed up to tear it apart. So you grow. You grow past the need to be understood. You grow past the need to fix what keeps breaking you. You stop pouring yourself into cups with holes in the bottom. That's what emotional detachment looks like. It's the choice to keep your peace sacred. It's realizing that silence is not avoidance, it's protection. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop explaining to people why you're no longer emotionally available. Let them assume, let them label you cold. Because the ones who truly see you, who truly value you, will understand your silence is an absence. It's survival. You've learned to detach, not because you don't feel, but because you felt too much, too often, for too long. Now you feel smarter. Now you choose you. Mastery isn't about blocking emotions. It's about channeling them. It's about recognizing that you can feel something and still choose not to act on it. You can feel hurt and still choose not to lash out. You can feel disrespected and still choose not to explain yourself. Because you understand that not everything needs a reaction. You've finally grasped that reacting emotionally gives someone else the will to your peace, and you've crashed too many times to hand over the keys again. So now you pause. You breathe. You feel everything and say nothing. Not because you're bottling it up, but because you're learning the power of presence. You're learning that responding from a place of peace is more powerful than reacting from a place of pain. That's mastery. That's real growth. You no longer allow toxic energy to shift your spirit. You no longer let manipulation guilt you into staying in situations that drain you. And you've stopped thinking you need to prove your worth to people who were committed to misunderstanding you from the start. You don't harden your heart. You just soften your surroundings. You curate peace like it's gold, because now you know your sanity is sacred. Every time you've tried to explain yourself to someone who never cared to understand, you gave them another opportunity to twist your truth. And slowly, painfully, you realize that some people don't want clarity, they want control. So you stopped explaining. You stopped overthinking. You stopped tying your emotional well-being to how they receive you. And that's when you became dangerous in the best way, because now you don't chase peace from others, you create it within. You stopped arguing with people who only listen to respond. You stopped sharing your heart with those who only show up when they need something, and suddenly your peace returned. You smiled quieter, you stood taller, you became harder to shake. That's the beauty of emotional detachment. It makes you resilient. It makes you calm in the middle of chaos. You don't beg anymore. You don't plead. You don't perform for acceptance. You learn to sit in silence with your own soul and make peace with who you are. You don't need the noise anymore. You don't crave the validation, because now your value is rooted in who you've become, not in who claps for you. You finally understood that your emotions were never meant to be tossed around like a game. They're sacred. So you hold them close and share them wisely. When you first start detaching, it hurts. It feels like you're losing people, like you're isolating yourself. But the truth is, you're not losing people, you're losing illusions. You're losing attachments to the idea of what people could be and finally seeing them for who they are. And in that process, yes, you become quieter. You become more observant. You start to watch instead of react. But with time, you begin to feel lighter. You stop carrying guilt for saying no. You stop apologizing for protecting your boundaries. You stop justifying your silence to those who never honored your voice. And that's when it clicks. Emotional detachment isn't isolation, it's transformation. It's not about pushing people away, it's about pulling yourself back together. You're learning to put yourself first without shame, to love people without losing yourself, and to walk away from anything that requires you to abandon your dignity. You're finally giving your energy the reverence it deserves. You used to break yourself to keep others whole. Now you build yourself up, even if it means others don't understand your silence. And that shift, that's where the real healing begins. Not in loud declarations, but in quiet decisions to protect your peace above all else. You see, emotional detachment is choosing not to be a puppet for other people's dysfunction. It's choosing to stop dancing for approval, stop bleeding for validation, and stop breaking yourself just to keep others comfortable. You've learned that love without respect isn't love, it's dependency. You've learned that loyalty without peace is slavery. And you finally come to terms with the fact that some people don't want you healed, they want you available. Available for their anger, their blame, their drama. But you've unplugged from all that. You don't show up to every argument you're invited to. You don't defend yourself to people who want conflict more than they want truth. That's power. That's maturity. You've evolved past the need to always respond, because now you understand that real peace often comes from what you don't say, what you don't engage in, and what you don't allow to enter your space. And that detachment, that stillness, it's not emptiness, it's full awareness. You know who you are. You know what you deserve. And most importantly, you know what you're no longer willing to tolerate. Not because you don't feel anymore, but because you finally respect how deeply you do. There was a time you gave too much, felt too deeply, and carried burdens that weren't yours to hold. You thought love meant staying. You thought loyalty meant silence. You believed that being emotional made you strong, and it did. But over time, the same depth that gave you compassion also left you vulnerable to emotional thieves, people who saw your heart as a tool, not a treasure. And so you broke quietly, repeatedly, until one day you didn't anymore. That was the shift. That was the moment you stopped bleeding in front of those who laughed at the sight. And that's where emotional detachment was born. In the ashes of your overgiving, in the quiet sobs that no one noticed, it rose like a shield around your heart, not to keep love out, but to keep you safe. You now love differently. You speak selectively. You walk away faster. And no, you're not numb. You still feel deeply. But you've reclaimed the right to choose where that depth goes. You've learned to detach not because you've lost emotion, but because you've finally honored it. This is not distance. This is discipline. This is not apathy. This is elevation. This is emotional mastery. And you earned it. There comes a point in your life where you realize you've spent too much time looking sideways, watching them, studying them, reacting to them. You've been bending, twisting, molding yourself just to fit into rooms where you were never meant to stay. You've been chasing their approval, their validation, their standards. And the whole time, the real you was sitting quietly in the back of your soul, waiting to be chosen. You see, the moment you decide to focus on who you want to be, not who they are, everything begins to shift. Because chasing their version of life will never fulfill you. I don't care how many followers they've got. I don't care how loud they are. If you live your life responding to them, you'll forget what your own voice sounds like. You weren't born to be a reflection of someone else's insecurity. You were born to become the person your spirit keeps dreaming about. The version of you that wakes up with clarity, not comparison. You owe it to yourself to stop watching and start building. Stop imitating and start becoming. Because your future isn't hiding in their life. It's buried in your own discipline, your own decisions, your own direction. People love to distract you from your purpose. They'll talk, they'll doubt, they'll throw shade when your light starts to shine a little too bright. They'll tell you who you can't be, what you don't have, how far you still have to go. And if you're not careful, you'll believe them. You'll slow down to argue. You'll step off your path just to explain yourself to someone who's never walked a mile in your shoes. That's how people get stuck. Not because they aren't gifted, but because they're too busy responding to noise that was never meant to guide them. But you're wiser now. You're tired of proving yourself. You're tired of asking permission to be great. So now you shift your focus. You no longer watch their steps. You take your own. You no longer worry about their steps. You trust your timing. This is your race, your destiny. And from this moment forward, your attention belongs to your vision, your discipline, and your faith. Let them talk. Let them underestimate you. While they stare at you, you stay locked in on the person you're becoming. Because the moment you start building the life you deserve, you stop reacting to the life they try to trap you in. You can't grow if you're constantly looking around to see who's watching. You can't evolve when your energy is wrapped up in other people's opinions. Some of y'all are exhausted. Not because you're not working hard, but because your focus is scattered. You're chasing dreams and chasing people at the same time, and the weight is killing your momentum. Hear me. There is no peace in pleasing everybody. There is no success in trying to be accepted by people who are still searching for themselves. You've got to wake up and realize that greatness doesn't come from looking at others. It comes from looking within. Ask yourself daily, who do I want to be? And then align every thought, every action, every hour of your life to that answer. Train your focus like a soldier. Discipline it like a warrior, because the world will throw 1,000 distractions your way, but it's your responsibility to protect your path. The people who mocked you, doubted you, betrayed you, let them be fuel, not focus. They are not your standard. They are not your measurement, and they are not your future. You don't need their permission to rise. You need your commitment to stay locked in on who you're becoming. It's easy to react, easy to clap back, easy to get caught in drama that doesn't deserve your name in it. But you've got to ask yourself, is this taking me closer to who I want to be, or is it pulling me back into who I used to be? That's the real test. That's the war you've got to win. The war within. Because becoming the best version of yourself means saying no to distractions that feel comfortable. It means walking away from people who want you to stay small so they don't have to grow. It means silencing the ego that wants attention and feeding the soul that craves peace. You don't become great by watching greatness. You become great by becoming it. And that only happens when your focus stops drifting and starts anchoring. Anchor it in your vision, anchor it in your future, anchor it in the truth that you've got something to offer this world, even if they don't see it yet. You're not in competition with anyone. You're not running their race. You're not here to mimic their journey. You're here to live your truth with unapologetic boldness. So stop looking around. Start looking ahead. That's where your power is. You want peace? Focus on your mission. You want success? Focus on your growth. You want purpose? Focus on your values. Because this world is noisy and everybody's got something to say, but only you can choose what voice guides your future. And if you keep allowing the opinions of others to define your direction, you'll always feel lost. You'll always be reaching for something just out of reach because it was never yours to chase in the first place. But the moment you say enough, the moment you decide to invest in your own growth, you start seeing clearly. You start moving differently. You no longer need applause to feel confident. You no longer need attention to feel valuable. You finally understand that the only validation that matters is the one that comes from the mirror. So train your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. The version of you that's waiting on the other side of this discipline, that version will thank you for staying the course, for not folding, for not chasing shadows, for choosing purpose over pettiness, for choosing destiny over distraction. That version is worth the work. So stay locked in. When you keep your focus on who they are, you start adjusting your light to match their shadows. You start shrinking to fit into places that were never meant to hold your greatness. You start measuring your worth by their acceptance. And that's a dangerous game, because their perception of you is shaped by their limitations, not your potential. So stop waiting for them to see your value. Stop hoping they'll wake up and realize who you are. You know who you are. You know what you've survived. You know what you're building. That's where your focus belongs. Not on proving them wrong, but on proving yourself right. Not on chasing people, but on chasing your purpose. Let them misunderstand you. Let them sleep on you. You weren't made to be seen. You were made to shine. And shining doesn't require an audience. It requires focus. It requires grit. It requires faith. So train your focus on who you want to be every single day, and trust that the right people, the right moments, the right opportunities will find you when you're walking in your truth, because when your focus is locked in on becoming, the world eventually adjusts to your growth. Look, the truth is, it's not them you're up against. It's your old self. The one who kept doubting, kept overthinking, kept holding back. That's the real competition. And every day you show up, every day you put in the work, you're stepping further away from who you were and closer to who you were meant to be. You've got to make peace with your past and get obsessed with your future. You've got to say, I refuse to waste another second focusing on who they are when I've got a purpose to become who I was created to be. That's the shift. That's the standard. This isn't just about success. It's about alignment. It's about integrity. It's about building a life that looks like the vision God placed inside you. So fix your eyes forward, train your focus, discipline your heart, and remember, you don't owe the world explanations for becoming something they didn't expect. You owe yourself the commitment to keep showing up, keep evolving, and keep your eyes on the person you're destined to be. Don't flinch. Don't fold. Don't follow. Lead. Build. Become. Because greatness doesn't happen by chance. It happens by focus. Stay locked in. You've made it this far not by accident, but because there's something inside you that refuses to settle. Something that knows your life is meant for more than reacting to distractions, more than adjusting yourself to fit into boxes built by people who don't even know who they are. That's something. It's purpose. It's vision. It's the fire in your soul that keeps whispering, keep going, keep growing. And now, the question is, will you honor it? Will you focus not on who hurt you, not on who doubted you, not on who tried to dim your light, but on who you are becoming? This life will pull you in every direction if you let it. But greatness doesn't live in chaos. It lives in clarity. You can't build your future with your eyes stuck on someone else's path. You can't walk in your calling while watching their every move. Your strength is in your stillness. Your power is in your focus. When you look in the mirror and train your mind, your energy and your faith on the person you want to become, the world begins to shift in your favor. The noise fades. The distractions weaken. And what's left is your truth, your fire, your unshakable identity. You are not here to compete. You are here to create. You are not here to seek approval. You are here to walk in purpose. You are not here to follow. You're here to lead your own life with discipline, grace, and unwavering vision. Let them talk. Let them underestimate you. Let them question your silence. Because every step you take toward becoming the best version of yourself is louder than any opinion they could ever throw your way. So keep your eyes forward. Keep your soul anchored. Keep your heart guarded and your vision clear. Don't lose yourself trying to be seen. Become someone they can't ignore, not by shouting louder, but by rising higher. Stay rooted in who you are becoming and trust that everything you need will come to meet you when you are aligned with purpose. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up for yourself. May your focus stay strong, your heart stay clean, and your vision stay clear. Walk in faith, walk in power, and never forget the only person you owe your best to is you. God bless you. Stay focused, stay grounded, and keep becoming.